done a video on making these tennis bracelets before. I'm doing a class this week, and this one's going to be geared towards the class so they can continue making their bracelet if they don't finish it during the time frame allotted. I'm using 80 round seed beads. These happen to be the Miyuki. These are 3mm fire polished crystals that I got from Art Beads. And this is also an art bead. It's not a crystal, but it's a silver bead, which will go in between the crystal beads. Now, if you're going to make a 6 3/4 inch bracelet, you're going to need 46 beads, 46 crystals. If you're making a 7 inch, you need 49. If you're making a 7 1/4, you're going to need 51, and a 7 1/2, 53. Now these come in strands of 50. So if you're making a 7 1/4 or a 7 1/2, you either have to have 2 of these strands, or you can introduce these other beads, the accent beads, which is what I did here. So in this bracelet, we've introduced the accent beads. So every 5 beads, we put the accent and go. So this one is 7 1/2 inches long, and you have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53 beads, or beads and crystals, to make this bracelet. So I'm going to show you how to get started and how to do this, and we'll take it step by step. I'm starting with about an 1.5 arms of number 8 Fireline with a number 10 beading needle. We're going to have to add thread as we go along. So pull out enough thread that you'd be comfortable working with. I don't like to try and do the entire bracelet amount of thread, because towards the very end with the Fireline, towards the very end, it's going to start to fray and get tangled. So I'd rather just add Fireline later on when we start to run out. So let's pick up an 80 bead, a crystal, and another 80, and you're going to bring them down, and you want to leave about 6 inches of tail. The reason we want to leave the 6 inches of tail is because we're going to use that in order to put the clasp on at this end. Excuse me. So we leave our 6 inches of tail, and we pick up another 80, and we're going to come back down. See, the thread's coming out this way. This is our working thread. You're going to turn around, do an about face, skip the first bead, and go through the crystal and the bead below it. So it should look like this, going through the crystal and the bead below. And when you're finished, you should have 1 on the bottom and 2 on the top. So now we're going to pick up 1 more bead, and we're going to go up through the crystal and up through the first bead. Now, the key to this bracelet is tension. So you want to keep the same tension. You want to have it snug so you don't have a lot of thread showing, but you also want to have the same tension all along the bracelet. I've actually, when I don't like my tension, if I go down and I see an area that's got too much thread showing or it's too loose, I'll take it out and redo it. So now we have 2 beads on the top, 2 beads on the bottom. Your thread should be coming out of the leftmost top bead, and we're going to go into the one next to it. It's all right that your thread's coming out of this bead instead of the one to the left in the corner, because that'll work just as well. So let the thread come out the second bead, and then we're going to pick up fire polished, and we're going to go through this second. We go through the bead below, and when we pull this down and tighten it, this is what it should look like. Now we're going to pick up another bead, and we're going to go through the crystal and the bead above. Now we have 3 beads on the bottom. So we're going to pick up another bead and we're going to go through the crystal. And we're going to go through the bead, not right below it, but the one next to it where the thread's coming out. So you want to go through this one. You're not going through the end one. You're going through the one in the middle. That's the key on this side. All right, we pull it down and tighten it. Because now we got to turn our thread around so the thread turns around, and we've created the opening for the next crystal. So we turn the thread around, and then we pick up our crystal, and we go through the bead up above. Now we're going to pick up another one of our 8 zeros, and we're going to go down through the crystal and the silver bead. Now, when I work this, I frequently flip this over. I'm doing it without flipping it over from side to side so you can actually see what I'm doing. The next step, I'll show you what I mean by flipping over. Now we pick up another bead, we go through the crystal, and see how this looks uneven? That's going to get fixed in a minute. When you go through the crystal and go through this bead, the bead next to the last one, and bring this up, remember your tension. Now go through the last bead, and now pick up a crystal and go through this bead. Go through the bottom bead. Now, what I was referring to is if you're more comfortable, once you get this going, you can pick up a bead, you can go through the crystal and the bead. I hit the thread. I don't want to push the thread up. All right, crystal and a bead. You're going to go up this way, put this on, and now I turn this over this way. And then I can pick this up and I can go up again and go up the bead next to it. I just prefer going in one direction. I prefer working up instead of coming with the needle down. This is the only place I'll come with the needle down. Let me turn it over. And then we'll pick up another crystal. Now, we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember our pattern here, if we're making the same pattern in the same length, calls for a silver. So we're going to pick up our bead. We're going to go through the crystal and the bead below. Then we pick up another bead and we go through the crystal and the bead above, not the end, the one next to it. Then we'll come around and come through the bead at the end. And now we're going to pick up one of our silvers. And we'll go through and add our silver. I'm going to do one more with the actual color bead. So we'll pick up a bead so you can see how the silver kind of sits in there. Like this. And then we add another bead. And now we'll come down. I'm going to flip that over. Go through the bead next to it and come up. So now you're getting the silver. You'll have the silver spaced within the teal colored beads. Continue with the pattern just like we did. Put on 5 colored beads and then put a silver bead on until you're running low on thread. I would say leave about 6 inches of thread. Don't go to the very end, but you want to have about 6, maybe 4 inches with a tail, about a 4-inch tail, so that we can add some additional thread. I've gone as far as I can go with this piece of thread. You can see the end here. So I've pulled the needle off and I've put a needle on another piece of thread. I pulled out about an arm's length, a little bit more, just about an arm's length, to add to the bracelet because we're more than halfway done here. So in order to add the thread, I'm going to do this in a simple manner. There's another method that you can use if you want to look up a magic knot. You can look that up, but I'm going to just use something that's fairly simple because this is a beginner's class and a beginner's video. So I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to let this dangle for the moment. And what I like to do is I start in the back, start about 3 back, and we're going to go through the crystal, go through the bead and a crystal and pull this through and just leave a little tail to cut off because we're not going to do anything with that. Now I'm going to come up. You can see a thread right here that joins the beads together. You want the one on the bottom. Don't do it on the very top one. Take one on the bottom, go under that and come up, and we're going to make a loop. So we'll come around and we'll make a loop. Tail thread got caught in there, so I'm going to pull the tail thread out. All right, so we have a loop and we'll go through the loop, and this is just going to make a simple little knot on here. Now remember, this is a lot of this is about tension, so make sure that you've done everything the way you want it before you start your new thread. Now we're going to go up the bead, up this bead, and we can come down the one next to it, and I'm not going to go directly down this way. I'm going to go through the first bead because what I want to do is I want to end up where my thread's coming out. So I'm going to go through the first bead, and then I'm going to go through the crystal next to it, and then we'll go through the bead, not the last one, but the bead next to it. And we'll pull this. Now you may have to pull on this side a little bit, and then we're going to come up all 3 of these. There. Now what this is going to do is you're set to continue as you were, and we'll come back and we'll tie this, we'll bring this in, we'll bring it forward. I don't like to have both ends going in the same direction, so we need to put a few more beads on, and then we'll get rid of these loose ends. Now at this point we'd be able to get rid of this extra thread. So I'm going to pick up another needle, and I'm actually going to use a short one because I don't need that much length on it. So I'm going to pick up and thread another needle. I'll pick up my little short one. And now that I have a couple of rows, now I don't want to add the knot, or I don't want to put a knot at the end. So I want to at least go forward through another bead, and then go underneath, make a loop, go through the loop, and make a knot. Now you can help with the tension a little bit on here if these are a little loose, because we're going to go through 2 more. So we'll come down here, and then I'm going to turn around and go through just the bead. And I'm going to go through the the one thread, and oops, my needle came off. I'm going to manually, with my fingers, go through that one and make a knot. Now the only thing I do want to do is I do want to go up through this bead and the next one, so I don't have to cut right at the knot. So I'm going to rethread my thread. And we want to go up these two beads. And I'm going to pull it kind of tight because I want to cut the thread off. Be careful only to cut this thread and not the others. So we're going to cut the thread. I don't need this needle anymore. And we don't need this thread anymore either. So I can also be very careful to cut just this thread, not the other ends, and get rid of that. Now when you've finished adding all of your crystals, your bracelet should look something like this. You should have a crystal, your two beads, and your crystal. You've got 5 along here. Now in order to finish this and put the clasp on, we're going to add one more row. So we're going to add 2 more beads. We're going to go up, and then just as if we were adding another crystal, we'll pick up a bead, we'll go next to it, and then we'll come down. So when you're finished, you should have your thread coming out towards the center and the 2 extra beads. Now normally if you were just doing another row, you'd add a crystal or a silver bead, but we're going to add our clasp now. And remember I said I picked out some of the beads aren't all the same, so I picked out some of the fatter ones. It works if you get a little bit wider one to put the clasp on. So I'm going to pick up a bead and I'm going to pick up the clasp. Now normally you'd want to use a jump ring, but I can't use a closed one because these clasps are closed. So I'm going to use a bead instead of the jump ring. So I'm going to pick up the bead and the clasp, and then I'm going to come back through the bead that I just put on, and I'm going to go through the one on the end, and I'm going to pull that, and that's going to lay flat like it would if you had a jump ring. So I'm going to go down. I want to reinforce this. I like to go through them 3 times. So I'm going to go down through the bead and the crystal, and I'm going to go back through the bead on the end, the bead in the center. I'm going to come up this time. I'm going to go back through the center bead and then go down through the end, go through the center, and then I'll go back through the end. There we go. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to go through the bead, the crystal, the bead. I'm going to go through the bead and the center. And this time I'll go down, go the other direction. And then I'm going to go through the last bead. And now I can start to tie this off. So I'll go through the bead and the crystal again. So it's nice and tight. And I'm going to go through the bead next to it. And remember, I like to do my little knots underneath. So we'll do a knot here. And then I'm going to go through a bead, crystal, and a bead. Now I like to pick the single threads that are going across here. So we'll go down here. And I'm going to do another one of those knots. And I'll go through the crystal and the silver bead. And then I'm going to cut the thread. And we've got the one side connected. And now we'll turn around and I'll come back and show you how to do the second side. I have to put the needle on this tail thread that we left. Now we've gone to the other side. The reason I wanted you to leave that thread coming out the second bead is because we do have to go back through and we have to have the thread coming out from the center of the bracelet. Now, this one, the beads stick up a little bit further. So I typically don't put 3 beads on. I typically only put 1. So I'll pick up the 1 and I'm going to flip this around and I want to get the clasp. I want to get this part of the clasp connected. All right. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to detach this because it's becoming a little difficult to work with it. All right, so I want to get this part of the clasp. It's got the little ring here. So I'm going to put this on and bring this down. So this side is going to look like this. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through that nice big fat bead right there, and then I'm going to go back through the end. And then I want to go over one, go down the crystal, and down the bead below it, and pull that tight. Now what I'm going to do, just to make sure I've got this all lined up correctly, now that I've got this on here, I am going to close this. So you do want to make sure before you go in trouble of putting them all together. So that's going to be fine. I just have to tighten that up. So now I want to come back through this bead. I want to go through my center, come up through my clasp, go back through my center. I always forget to go back through the center. So just keep remembering you have to go back through the center every time you go through the clasp and go through this side. And like the other one, we're going to do the 3 loops through. So we're going to go through again. And we're going to go through the side. Center. Now that looped around, I just want to get that thread. There you go. Center. Down in the clasp. Center. Side. All right, now I'm going to come back again one more time, go down through here, but this time I'm going to go in the other direction. We're going to go to this side only through the 1 bead so that I can make my little knot. I'll go over. Now I'm going to do the backward. You've probably seen me you might have seen me do this before, and pull through because I'm running low on thread. So I can either use a shorter needle or do the little backward stitch. We don't have much left to go. So I'm going to do the little backward. I'm going to go through the bead, the crystal and the bead. We want to do this one more time. Oops, I did pull it out. I was trying not to do that. All right, since I did pull that out anyway and I have to thread a needle, I'm going to go for the smaller one. Let me just pull out my smaller needle. There we go. go through next bead. We're going to make a little knot. I'm going to make the knot on this side. Doesn't really matter what side you make their knot on. Go through the loop. And now we can go through the crystal and the bead. Okay, and I'm just going to cut that off. So if you did happen to find this on YouTube, please like and subscribe if you liked our video. And we've completed our bracelet. Now, just numbers wise, once again, if you're making a 6 3/4 inch bracelet, you'll need 46 beads, and you'll basically have to make about 5 3/4 inch of length. And a 7 inch needs 49, and you'll need 6 inches of beads. 7 1/2, 53 beads, you'll need 6 1/2 inches of beads, and a 7 1/4 would be 51 beads, and 6 1/4 beads. Thank you.